Hello world, my name is Caleb, and in today's video we're going to make a list of artworks from the Art Institute of Chicago's API, and we'll just be able to tap on one and we get back an image and a name for the artwork. And we're going to, just be able to get images from their REST API. So let's go ahead and do that with Combine. First off, we'll start with creating a new project in Xcode and be iOS. We'll go next, Swift UI and Swift for the language, and we'll call this one Art Institute of Chicago, but you could call it anything you'd like. So just press next and create the project. So here we are in Xcode with our default Hello World view. Before we get started, let's create 3 groups. So we're going to go over here in the left hand side, and we're going to go new group. I'm going to call this group view model, like so. And then we're going to create our next group, and it's going to be called views. Oops, views, not just view. We're going to have multiple views in this. And then we're going to create one last group, and that is going to be called model. So just like that. And now we have a very simple folder structure for a very simple MVVM kind of example. Obviously, in your app, this will be a lot more folders, a lot more structured, a lot more kind of detailed and specific to the flow of your app. But here is a good, simple example. We'll start off in the model because we need that to fetch the data. So we'll go ahead and just create a new file here, and we will call it, if we go enter, we'll call it model or artwork. Sorry. I was like, view models. No, we'll call it artwork. Obviously, this isn't going to need any import statements. I created a Swift UI example or template here, but this isn't going to need anything because it'll be using just the Swift language itself. So we'll use a struct like so, and we want to give our struct a name, and artwork data response will be good. This will be the response we get back from the API. And if we go tab to their fields, we're just going to create one here. It's going to be let data. It's the data that we get back. And it's going to be of type array of artwork. Except it's not going to be artwork data response. I just completed that because I don't know. But we'll copy artwork and create another struct here. So you could obviously make separate files for each one of these structs, but I don't think that's necessary right now. Again, you could do that in your own project, and if you had a larger project, maybe that'd make more sense. We're going to make this decodable so that we can decode the JSON object we get back, and we also want to make it identifiable. And we also want to make this decodable because this is pretty important to decode. So make this, oops, not colon, decodable, like so. And then we want to add just a couple of fields here. So we're going to go let ID, and this is just going to be an int. So like that. Then we're going to create another constant, and it's going to be the title. So kind of the title of the painting or the artwork that we get back. And it's going to be string. And then we're going to have one more constant, and it's going to be called image, like so. And it's going to be image ID. Now, I think I could be wrong, but I thought this might have been optional on the REST API. I guess I should have looked into that a little bit more. So let's make it an optional string that we'll be getting back for the ID. And here you can see we're using image and then uppercase I and then D. So we're using camel case. I'm just pointing this out because once we get to the networking part of this, we actually get from the data snake case. So snake case is, oops, not that, is like that, which is fine. Doesn't look very Swifty. I don't think it looks as pleasant. So we're going to convert it to camel case, and it's just one line of code. So I'll show you that in a little bit. So one last thing before we leave this .swift file, we're going to go ahead and create a global property here. Not the best idea probably, but for our simple project it'll be fine. And it's just our preview artworks. This is for our previews, make it a little easier when we're building out our UI. And it has an ID, it has a title, and for our image ID, we have this long string of characters. So that will give us a sample image and title to work with. Now with that in place, it's time to create our view model before we go on and build our views. So we'll go up here, open up our view model folder, and make a new file. We'll just call it artwork view model. And again, this isn't going to be a Swift UI view. I just grabbed that template instead of changing things around. So first we want to import combine, and we'll be using combine to do our networking and to publish the response that we get back in an array of artwork objects, or what I think we call art structs. So other than combine, we do need to import foundation because we'll be using URL session, which is part of foundation. So just do that. And now we can go ahead and create our class. So enter a few times, start typing out class. Just pick the template we get, paste in artwork view model. For our superclass here, we're actually just going to use the observable object. So a type of object with a publisher that emits before the object has changed. And we need that for our Swift UI views. And the first thing we'll do is we'll create an @published property. And this is just going to be var, and we're going to set private set. So this just means that the only one that's going to be setting or assigning these values is going to be inside of our artwork view model class. And this just kind of helps us say, you know, our view model is in charge of kind of dealing with the logic, and we don't want our view having access to write anything to this. Kind of just helps kind of enforce some rules basically. So we're going to go artwork, artworks. This is going to be an array, and we're going to assign it an empty array for now. We're going to fill it out soon enough. And we do that just by open close parentheses, open close square brace, and open close parentheses on the end. So we're just initializing an empty array. Oh, and the expected pattern warning we're getting, private set, is before we say var. So like that. Now we'll continue on. Next, we want to declare a property for the cancellables to store what we get back. Let's do that. We're going to make this private. It doesn't need to be, this isn't going to be published. It's not something we're going to, the view cares about. So we're just going to call this cancel, and we'll just assign this to a set of any cancelable, and we're just going to initialize it as, again, empty. One last property for this class is also going to be private. It's just going to be something we'll be using internally in the class. It's going to be a constant. No real need to change it. It's just going to be a JSON decoder. So the reason why we're making our own JSON decoder here, or creating a property for it, is because we could just use JSON decoder like this. But remember when I mentioned snake case, it's not going to do that for us. So we create a constant here, and then we're going to do a small tweak on it in one line, and it'll make it so we can just convert everything to snake case. It's really nice. So now we'll go down a few lines. We're going to create our first function, and I think the only function we'll really need in this one. I'll backspace a little bit so I can just get some autocomplete fun. And we're going to call this one fetch, because we'll be fetching the artwork from the Chicago Institute of Chicago, the Art Institute of Chicago API. So fetch artwork like so. And it's not going to take in any parameters, and we're not going to return anything from this function. We're just going to assign to the artworks array on line 12. So no need for any of that. And inside the function body, we want to create our URL. And we're going to do that by creating a guard statement, because URLs are optional. So we want to say if there isn't anything of this URL, just return from the function. I'll show you what I mean. So type out guard, And you get a couple options. We could type out the whole thing, or you just go here and it says transfers control out of the scope if the expression is nil. So if for some reason that URL doesn't exist, they don't host the stuff at that endpoint anymore, we're just going to get out of the function altogether because we don't know where to go, basically. So call this URL, and this is going to be URL, so a value that identifies the location of a resource, such as an item or a remote server, to a file. So we're going to do that, and we're going to go from string, and there we go. And for our string, we're just going to do https api.article.edu/API v1 artworks. So this should get us some artwork back to display in our app. Now we could return a value here if we're doing, if the function expected, maybe if we declared a specific return type or something like that, but we didn't. So we're just going to return out of the function. So if this URL doesn't exist, none of the rest of the code we're writing here will even get touched. So that JSON decoder we made, go JSON decoder, and we want to go dot key. I just type in key because it's key decoding strategy. So this is just a value that determines how to decode a type's coding keys. You could make coding keys in the struct itself and do all that, but I feel like it's a lot more work, and why when you can just do, again, this one line. This one line converts snake case to camel case, and it's wonderful. So we'll just do that. Now we want to go ahead and create our URL session. And to do that, we're going to go ahead and go URL session. And so an object that coordinates a group of related network data transfer tasks. And from there, we're going to go dot shared, which is a singleton, which everyone loves to crap on, but they're used all over. So anywho, singleton, and we're going to go data task like so. And we want to use the data task publisher for. So this returns a publisher that wraps a URL session data task for a given URL. We'll deal with that in a moment after we give the URL that we created on line 17. So this result to call data task publisher for is unused because this data task publisher here is, if we go option click, you can see it's just a function and it returns a URL session data task publisher. And so since it's returning something and we called it, we haven't used that returned value. So let's do that. We're going to start by going .map, and this takes publishes the value of a key path. So it even shows us actually right here. So key path, a data, and then we also have response. Well, we don't want the response for what we're doing. We just want the data that we get back from the response, right? From the location on the server. So we're just going to go backslash dot, and then we have data or response. But what we want is the data. So we'll go with that, and we're good to go. Now we want to do a few other operators. So kind of in SwiftUI where we have the dot syntax to have like modifiers, Combine uses operators. Kind of similar, they're functions and they can take in values and they manipulate or change things. So I suppose they're kind of similar. This one we're going to go dot decode, and this is just going to be how we decode our, it specifies our decoder and what we're going to decode. So what we're going to decode is the artwork response, data response is what we called it. And we go dot self, so the response itself. And then for the decoder here, we could have gone JSON decoder like that, and that would have worked fine, except that we specifically want to convert our snake case to camel case. So we modified our JSON decoder just a little bit. And that's why we're using the one we made over here on line 14. So we also don't need to do anything there. We don't have to have the open close parentheses. So that's looking pretty good so far. We also want to specify where we want to receive this. So we're going to receive this on the main thread. So dot receive on. I was like, that's not the right one. Receive on. I think I have to go dispatch queue. And so this is just an object that manages the execution of tasks serially or concurrently on your app's main thread or on a background thread. So here we want to put it on the main thread by going .main. And then we've pretty much done everything except dealt with the data we got back. So this is where we're going to create .sync. And this attaches a subscriber with a closure-based behavior. And basically, this is just where we're going to get back our data or our errors, and we're going to deal with them how we want. And on our receive completion, we're just going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit by highlighting that and going back one. And we're just going to open curly brace and go completion like so. And then we're going to go in. And we're going to go enter curly brace space. And inside of our completion block, we're going to handle the completion event. So we're going to create a switch statement. And we're going to switch on completion. And our first case is going to be failure. So dot failure. And we're going to just go let error like so. And in here, we're going to just print out the error. We're not going to do much else at this point. We're not going to do like any error handling, but definitely in a production app, that would be handy. So good thing we're not writing production code here, huh? Oops, I should also write inside the actual string. So hopefully that is all right. We're going to use some string interpolation and put the error right there. So now we also want to deal with what happens when it's finished or print out what we get. So right now I should be complaining it must be exhaustive. Wonder if it'll actually just missing case. Yeah, we do have a missing case. And it did put it in for us, finished. Sweet, so we have failure or finished. And here we just want to print, again, we're not going to do really anything here. We're just going to print that it finished, like so. All right, now that we have our first chunk of code, first closure there, we can go on to receive value, which is where we're going to actually update our artwork. So here we're just going to go ahead and delete that. And again, do an open curly brace. And in here we want to do weak self. And this is for memory management. We don't want to get like a strong retain cycle. So we don't want to have a strong reference to our, well, if we go back here, see, start typing out self. Oh, it doesn't say right there. Anyway, self should be our class. So the thing we're in. Then we're going to go response, and we're going to go in and then enter. Oops, not int, in, and then enter. And in here, we're going to just update the artworks array. So we're going to go self, and see, now it should tell us, see, self is the artwork view model. So the class we're in. And we're going to use question marks. It's not going to be a strong reference. In fact, if I delete that question mark, go dot artworks. So that's artworks, which is inside our class. And we want to assign the response, which is the artwork data response. And remember when we created that, we had an array in there called data. So we're just going to do that. Assign our array our data, and it automatically added the question mark where I wasn't paying attention and added it anyway. Hopefully an error comes up here soon. Yeah. Value of optional type artwork view model. So optional because we did this weak self. If I cut that out, we should get another error now because I modified it again. So cannot use optional chaining on a non-optional value. So let's do that. Anywho, pretty much done now. We do need to store what we got back. So we go dot store, and here we're going to store it in that cancellables, which is the whole point of making that in the first place. It's just a area to store our values. Hopefully this made sense and not too rambly. I was trying to make polished videos with animations and stuff, but now I'm just kind of making them kind of quick and screencasty. I feel like maybe I went over this too quick, so leave a comment down below if this was a terrible combined tutorial. Anywho, with all that done, now we can go make some views that display all the data we get back. So let's go over here and create some views. First one, actually we're not going to even create, we're just going to grab content view and move it down to our view section. We're not going to do anything with that just yet though. We want to create 2 additional views first. So our first one that we're going to make is just going to be artwork. Oops, typing it in there. So SwiftUI view, next, call this, just hold down function and you're at the end, you can just delete back to it. So just go art, work, view like so, create that. And now that we have our basic view, we're going to do a couple of things. First off, well, I guess we need to make the constant first. So we're going to go let, and we're going to go artwork. And this artwork is going to be the of type the artwork struct we made earlier. So artwork. And then it's going to complain. See, I get in ahead of myself. We'll go fix. And then once we have to initialize the view with actual artwork. So this is why we made that preview artwork like so. So, or yeah, we didn't update any text or anything that uses it. So we could also do the .preview layout like so. And then we could just go over here to that, and then we get just what we're working on, which is always nice. But we'll make this a navigation link, and we go open parentheses. We're going to set the destination and the label. So our destination here is not built out yet, so coming soon. Coming soon. But we can make the label in this view. So the label is just going to be an HTAG like so. And inside here, we're just going to go text. Actually, I don't even know why we're making this an HTAG. Really, quite honestly, I think we're overcomplicating things at this point. So we're just going to make a text view, and it's going to be artwork dot title. So that's a string. We're just going to put that in there, and you see we get the bay of, we get the artwork title. Sorry, I didn't read that all out. Now let's go build our coming soon view, because that needs to be, we need to have that obviously to go to a detail view. So let us go do that. So just create a new file and do that. So artwork detail view, create that. Again, get kind of our standard SwiftUI view. Again, we want to have the view have artwork passed to it. So we're going to put that in there as a constant. And again, we're going to get a complaint here. And we'll just fix it like that. And we're going to go preview artwork. And we're just going to get this view centered nicely by pressing the third button in over here on your bottom right hand corner. And then we can start building this view out. It's not going to be too much to it, but it will be a little bit more than our artwork row. So instead of deleting this text, maybe we'll do command click, and we're going to go scroll view. Nope, doesn't work that way. We'll go VStack, and this is embed in VStack, and then we'll change the VStack to a scroll view. And then for our hello world here, we're actually just going to replace with artwork dot title. And then we can add a few modifiers like dot font, and our font is going to be dot title. And there you can see we're using that preview data. And then here, we're going to go ahead and just create a view down below. So view there. We'll get to that momentarily. We're going to go dot padding. And that looks pretty good to me. Now for our scroll view, this is going to be inside of a detail view that we navigated to. So we're going to go dot navigation title. Dot navigation title is going to be artwork details. And then so that we don't have like a big title on top, we're going to go navigation and we're going to go bar and title display mode. So this is going to allow us to say dot inline. So typically it's like a large title at top, but we moved into a detail view, so we want that to be inline. So that pretty much wraps things up, except for our view that we're going to put right here. So let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit, and we're going to do something a little different. If you watched my last video where we built out just a, var, and we called it something like this one's going to be called art work image view, like that. And then we say, of type view, and then just return something here on line 26. We're going to have to do something a little different because we're actually going to return, we're going to use conditional. And so we'll need to come up here and we're going to go at view builder. So this is a custom parameter attribute that constructs views from closures. And the reason we'll need that is because we're doing some conditional work here. So inside of this, we're going to go if let image ID assign artwork dot image. And again, this was an optional, as you see, question mark there. So it's an optional, and that's why we're doing that if let. And then we're also just going to go, you can separate here, go comma, and you can separate creating properties. So we're not just like doing like nested if conditions or something like that. So we're going to go let image, I gotta go space, image URL, and then we're going to assign the URL, and this is going to be from, or it's going to be from, it's going to be string URL string, second option. And here we're going to paste in this article.edu dash whatever, and then we're going to use some string interpolation to put in the image ID that we have, that we get back, and then we get back a JPEG apparently. So that is from the endpoint. And then here, if all goes well, we can go async image, scroll down a little bit, and open parenthesis, we're going to go URL, and this is going to be the image URL that we just created. And then inside of there, we're going to open curly brace, go image, and this will be in, and inside here we'll go image, not image URL, but dot resizable. Oh, and that's why I was put an E there. It's too many characters. Anywho, after we do that, we can also go dot aspect ratio, and this is going to be dot fit, like so. Possibly forgot the image here, so hopefully that fixes that. Go Control I to kind of clean up the indentation and see what we get. Cannot infer contextual base. Go ahead and delete this for now. Let's finish filling this out, see if maybe I'm just catching up, or if I'm not catching up, we'll see which one. Because this, I think, should work unless I messed up. I apologize, I'm messing up a whole bunch today. Alright, build succeeded, so I was messing up a bit, but then some of the errors we were getting here is just because our async image wasn't, like I didn't fill out the last closure here, the placeholder. So sorry about that. Yeah, And if the image isn't available, so we do this if, we could do an else, but I don't know, let's update the preview. Yeah, it doesn't give us much detail if the image isn't there, so let's go ahead and do else. And in here, we're just gonna have some text and say something. Tell the users, you know, the image is not available or something like that, so that they're not loading the view. And of course, after I wrote that out, I just realized our view isn't updating because didn't put our artwork image here. So we go artwork, image view. Now we should have an image. See, there's progress for a second, but now we have an image. So if we cut this out, Command X, we should see function declares an opaque return type, but not that. I gotta go here. But has no return statements in its body from which to infer our underlying type. So that's why we put the view builder there, because it allows us to use some conditional logic and return, you know, either our async image or our text. So there, I think, is all our views built out. We just need to go to content view. So this view will be pretty simple, just a navigation stack. And inside our navigation stack, we're gonna have a list. And we're gonna fill that list out with a view model. I was about to say we need to put a view model in there, but didn't create our view model yet. So let's go ahead and go at state object, which is how we'll initialize our view model, or by going private var view model like that. And then we're going to assign it our artwork view model like so. Now we'll know what's happening with a view model. And then we go artworks, because that's our array. We just go out and do open curly brace, and we go artwork for the individual pieces we're getting. And we go in, and in here, we just want to have our artwork row. Thought we called it row. Artwork row, did we not? Oh, we called it artwork view. I guess we should have called that view row or something. Not view model. Anywho, yeah, I apparently didn't get enough coffee today. I don't know what my problem is. Sorry. Artwork like that, we're passing in the individual piece of artwork. So option click there, artwork. This is going into our view because we made a constant and the view needs it because we didn't initialize it in the view. So now that we've got that, for our list, we want to add a few modifiers to our list. If I go option command P, see if our view updates at all, which it didn't, or it didn't load anything because we didn't call or fetch artwork yet. So let's go navigation title. And here we want to just call this one art works like so. And that's the big title. That's the one we intentionally said, you know, don't use by using the inline. So here we want to use it. Now when the whole list appears, our list appears, we want to call a function from our view model. And that would be the view model dot fetch. So after we call the fetch artwork, hopefully we get back artwork, or we messed up something in our view model, which looks like we didn't because we now just got our data back. Awesome. Tile, is that one? Or is that a mess up? Our image isn't loading, or none of our detail stuff's loading. That's not good. Oh, we messed up something. So let's go and see what we did. Built all that out. I think that looks good. Yep, I think that looks good. Go to our artwork view. Oh, that's why. We never put a navigation link in. Artwork detail. We'll pass in the artwork that we get here. So if we go to our content view, we create our view model, initialize it. We get the view model, we get the artworks, we get we loop through them basically. This is iterating over them. We get each individual artwork, and then we pass it in right here to our artwork view. And our artwork view is constant. That's where our artwork is getting passed in. And then we're passing that in to our artwork detail view, which does a similar setup. And that's how everything's working. So that's just our sample data. But now if we go here, this is live data. So now we have artwork. So interesting artwork, murder mystery. Yeah, so this is what we're getting now. This is all live data from the Art Institute of Chicago API. So hopefully this tutorial was okay. If you're into this kind of video stuff, check out my channel's got more of it, I guess. Thanks for watching.